This is the Bull Mountain Brothers podcast.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the BMB Network, and you're listening to the 56th podcast of the Bull Mountain Brothers. Boys, we are back from quite a night.
Spectacular night. I mean, couldn't went any better.
We talked about this earlier. I went into some background knowledge here. Last night, because I guess they wouldn't know when this podcast was recorded because it comes out Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Last night would have been our first ever fundraiser for the Bull Mountain Brothers and the Starlight Foundation. It was held at the High Horse Saloon in Billings, Montana, and it turned out amazing. Well, I'm not ready to say amazing, but it turned out really, really fun, really good.
I would.
I'm going to be honest. I mean, like for our first fundraiser, that was great. I mean, it really.
I think the turnout was good. I was really, because we've done something like this, not even like this. We did, let's say, a public outreach, right? We went and did a booth last year, and it really sucked. Had no one show up. And so that was my mentality going into last night was, what if no one shows up, right? Like that would really suck. It'd look bad on us, and it would look, because we're trying to not only help the Starlight Foundation, benefit Bull Mountain Brothers, but really benefit the High Horse Saloon, right? Put ass in seats is what they say. And it would look bad on us for future, because we want to do future stuff with them. It would look bad on us if it sucked. And was there no seats at some point?
Oh yeah, for most of the night there was not an empty chair, other than there was a table way out in the back.
Also got filled. But
I think it got filled as other people left, but still at the same time, every seat in that place had a butt in it at one point or another.
It was pretty cool too, because we actually met a guy last night that we somewhat made a connection with, that he had no idea that was going on, and he came in on a date, and he couldn't find a place to sit. So I mean, the turnout was great.
Yeah, I mean, I was not prepared for it to be not only, we had no expectations. I mean, I had low expectations if I had anything.
But realistically, we had no idea what. That was our first fundraiser that we've ever done. So like we were going into everything like, I have no idea what's going to happen, and then things would, come to us, and we're like, oh really? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, like let's do it that way. You know what I mean? It was cool.
Yeah, and I think it turned into some networking too. Like we met 3 or 4 different people that just randomly came up and said, "Hey," they either we had some that said that we started a nonprofit veterans thing too. Like we'd like to meet you guys, hang out, and come up with something. We met some hunters. We met a journalist. I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy experience. I thought it was like I said, I went into it thinking this, I was kind of dreading it. And then we did it, and it was like, I had a great time. I think that the High Horse is a wonderful place to host that kind of event.
Absolutely.
And we did well.
The crowd was right, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I was kind of nervous too, because you're in Billings, Montana itself is a town of 130,000 people now, I think, and rising. And so your people that are coming to different stuff could have different values, right? There could have been some people that were really not interested in what we were doing. And I think we met some too. We met, someone claiming, I'm a vegan, they want to know what we were about. And, I'm always open.
That was our first experience with that.
Yeah. I'm always open to have that conversation. Right. And I think it went well.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, just to give the perspective of essentially our values that we have as a company, as a group of guys that hunt and fish and do all that, everything that we're graced with in the great state of Montana. It was kind of cool that to get that experience with somebody that's I've never done that before, and to be able to explain to them with a passion why we do it, and in somewhat how we do it. You know what I mean? So it was great.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was overwhelmed by the support that we got there.
Yeah, what
Super
was your
cool.
rundown of the night? Like, how did the night go down in the way you saw it? Like,
I was very similar to you. I kind of went in and I was like, man, this might be kind of lame. You know, everyone's walking in to go get a table for bingo, and people just keep walking by, and you get a little side eye like, oh, hey guys, and then all of a sudden everybody's coming back from their seats once they get situated, and they're coming to talk to us. I'm like, hey, who are you guys? What are you guys doing here? And then we started explaining. We're like, oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. And a lot of people are like, oh, you guys are in Billings? And we're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, we never heard of you. I was like, oh, we're not that big, but
I mean, we have a decent outreach. It's just not like, I think that we're starting to lay the groundwork for more, like we have the whole TikTok thing. So we have definitely some, you know, if you look at our podcast analytics, like we're all over the United States right now. But I think to lay down a good framework for the company, it's doing local outreach. And I think a lot of companies start that way, you know, like really supporting your local taverns, your local food banks, your local stuff, businesses, small business. What's wrong?
sorry. I'll tell you about it later.
What?
Nothing. Just
Who
keep
does
going.
that? Who just sits here and smiles?
I was laughing to myself.
You're crazy. So yeah, I mean, like you start with the local stuff, and I think that the more people that know about us here, and I want to have the best perception of Bull Mountain Brothers to the local. I mean, it's really important. I mean, we live here, so it's like the people we have to run into every day. So if we can continue to partner with really awesome organizations and do some really good things, I think that those should go hand in hand.
I did enjoy the fact that, I mean, like my opinion on it going into it, I was super stoked. Like I was kind of like almost like freaking out inside a little bit about like, you know, I want to present perfectly. You know what I mean? I want to be something that when people come across us, they appreciate the outside of the fact of what we do, but the professionalism that we come across with. And so I was a little nervous going in, you know, like to be able to talk to a bunch of not really at the same time. I wasn't worried about talking to the people, but being able to present myself in a professional way was the big thing that I was struggling with a little bit. Because I mean, at the same time, I do that daily. You know what I mean? But
I get what you're saying though, because like there was a point in time where like, oh, we should eat in shifts just so there's someone here to like, so we're not all
Run the
We
feeling-
had
booth.
some really good food too.
yeah, we did.
Absolutely.
But I think it was cool too because at the end of the night, I think the three of us were like, and we had some great support from some lodge crew members and previous turkey winner, Dylan Miller and Chad Lager. I mean, thank you to those guys
are
for
awesome.
Yeah,
giving
even
us. I mean,
Josh showed up.
yeah, and Josh and you know, some his friends and you know, friends that you guys know and things like that. But like Chad was there the whole time we were. You know,
Yeah, he's a
came out-
rock star.
He was the first one. He beat me there.
Yeah, he came and, you know, helped set up and did all that stuff. That was awesome. But I think the three of us at the end of the night were kind of like, this was so much fun. Like I want to do these, you know. And
Oh,
we're
yeah.
like, in like the booth idea, we were like, let's go out in the country and do this, you know. And then we're like, this would be great. And then of course, you know, the three of us had a good. Well, I don't know so much about Riley, but it was a good night because we ended it with the let's throw a 20 in the.
Oh, we were all
machine.
positive.
Yeah, and
I made money. Yeah.
you did, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we all came out, you know, we're like, yeah, let's throw a 20 in.
I had a bonus on my first one and then ran through the bonus and left.
I was really on a roll.
Yeah, you did good. Sean did good too. He made like $80.
Yeah. So overall it was a good night, and I know that like our conversation in the parking lot after that was like, holy shit, we like these are great. Like we did well, you know, like we spoke in front of everybody.
Well, can I get your opinion on something? Do you think that like even as much as like, well, I guess on here we've really established a way to. This is public speaking, but not to the public. You know what I'm saying? You get used to talking to. I mean, that camera is essentially could be 5 people, could be 500 people, could be 5,000 people, right? So we've developed a way of talking to people, but at the same time, we're still the three of us are still a little shy. I've noticed that in a little bit of the stuff we've done. So going into this, I worried about like, are we gonna be able to talk to people? Are we gonna be able to do this, do that? You guys made me talk on the mic. I was peeing myself the whole time.
You literally have the most mic time out of anybody in here, just based on how much you talk during the podcast.
I know, but I was just like, man, I can't say, because like on here I can kind of run through what I'm gonna say before, like when you guys are talking, I can start thinking about what I'm gonna say. When I'm up on that thing, it's just like, oh, I can't stop talking and look unprofessional. So I was a little nervous, I will say. Like my heart was beating a little
Did
bit.
he not try to play it off like he was not nervous at all
Mhm.
to do that?
The whole time.
Did I seem nervous when I was talking?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
When you were talking?
Oh, yeah.
Not in the beginning.
You're talking to a guy that I've known my entire life.
I know, but like you went into it, like you sounded good, and then like towards the end, it was a little.
Yeah, because I was running out of things to say.
But
I mean, that happens.
now I
Tomorrow night.
I guarantee it. Tomorrow
ready
night,
tomorrow
I'll
night.
go up there with you tomorrow night.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be great. I think it was fun. Like I think that for the future, I'm more willing to do more public events like this.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you guys feel. I mean, like I know we have we talked about the one we're gonna do in June?
No.
We're gonna do a booth. Let me get some more details on that before we really drop those news. But we're gonna do another booth whenever this happens in June. It's not the same weekend it usually is. It's gonna be like second or third week of June. But that's gonna be cool too. It's what we did last year, but upgraded a lot. It's gonna be very similar. And then we've been talking about doing some live podcasts possibly if we start developing these relationships. So I will take last night as a win.
For sure. We have a lot more information going into tomorrow night than we did last night, which is good because we'll know what to expect and be prepared in a sense.
Oh, for sure.
I think as far as our kind of we did know in a way what to expect last night, but our planning and our preparation, leading into it, I think we did really good because we're like, how do we come across the best we can?
How we talked on the phone for an hour the night before, just kind of figuring out
Right.
what the hell we were going to do.
Well, to be fair, this is something that Matt set up. So to be the ones that weren't even involved in the initial conversation and then to come out and perform was a showing of really what we can do for future events.
For sure. I do like our we had a lot of really big ideas after, like today, talking amongst ourselves like what we could do for tomorrow. I think Bull Mountain Brothers will come what's that saying? That's really come correct. Tomorrow we came correct Monday. We're gonna come correct to the Squire on Wednesday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So of course we can't like advertise it, but if you guys make it to the Squire tomorrow, which would be Wednesday, thank you so much. We appreciate it. This podcast will come up Friday, so if you guys make it, like I hope we have as good an event tomorrow as we did yesterday, because and you guys went and checked out the Squire last weekend, and you guys got kind of mapped out. So I think if we can come into it and there's as many people, I think it'll be just as fun.
Oh, easily.
And again, thank you, Reed, and both locations for allowing us to do this and really supporting us. It's really become a passion for us and really like a part of our hearts to be able to give back to these wounded veterans and stuff that partake in the Starlight Foundation. It's something that we're starting to become way more passionate about than we were, say a year ago.
For sure.
So yeah, enough on that subject. You guys have you guys went up to anything else besides that recently? I mean, we've been really stagnant on getting out, and we've been so busy doing like hardcore company stuff that we've missed out on a lot of things. I will say I see Ramsey's got the steelhead mustache shaved. Kind of brings up a sore subject. We already knew this though because we talked about it.
It's just.
But you do have the steelhead mustache shaved.
I do.
You have no beard.
Yeah, I'm all clean shaven. Got less of a double chin than I used to.
You can't call that clean shaven.
It was Saturday or whatever it was.
What?
But
My beard grows like wildfire, dude. It's stupid.
But yeah, so we didn't get to go steelhead fishing. But I'm going fishing this weekend. Finally, it's been probably a month since I've done any fishing, so I'm excited to get back out and do that. You know, it's starting to get into. I guess your mustache is just it's the spring fishing mustache.
Well, I mean, first of all, I shaved it into the old Fu Manchu, and I was like, "You look like an idiot." So this is what I ended up.
I like that much
Excuse me.
better. I think you look way better.
I might keep it for a while. I might.
Yeah, I had to tame mine. It was.
I'm also getting real close to cutting the hair.
Oh God, please don't. Can you at least go through one more hunting season with it? You know how much hard work it is to get your hair that long?
See, my only issue is I'm starting a new job. And the last time I did this sort of work and I had long hair, it was the most annoying thing on the planet because
And it can get close to like there's some more different equipment that you could be working with that could
That's-
really.
and there's a lot more welding involved with this job.
I support it. I support it if you want to do it, but
I mean, I'm not going to go Sean short.
dude, no. I think if you cut your hair, I think you should go straight, like shortest you've ever done it.
No.
You don't think you should go for like a straight
Why
like
not?
fade, like a fade, like a.
Absolutely not.
I mean, you are a single man.
I have a giant head, so
You have thick hair though.
Hair grows
Well,
back.
Sean and I don't have thick hair, so we. Sean doesn't like that I included him there.
oh man.
I think you should cut it really short.
Not a chance.
Why? What are you?
Why? What are you-
Who's
what are you
out there to
worried about?
impress?
I just don't like short hair.
So
No, I'm not talking like buzzed. I'm talking like a nice fade or something like that, like a nice like
They
professional
start
looking
with
haircut.
a buzz to go into a fade.
I know. I have my hair faded into a mullet.
No, you don't. You have your hair patchy into
Riley
it.
actually gets a perm.
My hair is naturally curly, so step off. It may be thin, but it's
It
natural.
looks like an extra large order of
And,
Arby's fries.
and I will say the other thing about when you have hair this long, if you cut it short, it just like from having weight on it, it sticks straight out and it looks.
You're just saying that
ridiculous.
That's so bullshit. I had
Ask
hair.
Jill.
I
Ask
had,
Jill,
I
'cause
had
that's
hair
just-
longer
Sean-
than yours, and I cut it like buzz cut after, and it.
Sean, what would you say if you found out that Ramsey shaved my beard for me the other night? Are you okay with it?
No,
Can I
Well,
tell you why?
no,
Why?
because now I just like I'm looking at you different. It's
But the last time I shaved, like I'm not talking like I normal trim all the time, right? But the last time I went from a big beard to short, I didn't set the guard right or something. Literally just shaved my mustache off, and that's something I cannot risk. I am not a good mustache only guy, or without a mustache.
It
guy.
wouldn't be allowed within like 200 feet of a Chuck E. Cheese or a school.
Yeah, so I did request. He helped me.
I feel like you guys are reading too far into like your looks. I mean, just send it. Who cares?
Well, not all of us can look like vampires.
Yeah, it's not all of us are married either, Sean.
So
Some of us are still trying to swoon. And some of us might be getting old, Sean. Some of us might be close to 30, Sean.
still, at the end of the day, who gives a shit?
I don't really give a shit. I just like to look presentable. And Ramsey said I've looked like a homeless man for the last 3 months, so
His beard was bad.
I thought it was very fitting.
Yeah, but at the same time, long hair was cool when you were 17. You know what I mean? So
You're against long hair now?
I hate. I mean, after having it, I absolutely will never go back. It
I
was the
think
most
where
annoying thing in the world.
Sean's biggest problem is that it's too thin up top now, so it wouldn't look right.
Listen. I have been growing my hair out.
Do you want to know why it was too thin up top? That was a Head and Shoulders mistake.
What do you mean? You
I
used the
didn't-
wrong shampoo or what?
Do you know that Head and Shoulders is only a dandruff shampoo?
So you're saying you're worried that you used the shampoo that
I used
started
it for
started
6
to ruin your hair.
Years.
And it's ruining your hair.
I never knew it was just a dandruff shampoo until my mother-in-law was the one who was like, "You do realize that's a dandruff shampoo, right?"
So you chemically ruined your hair.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
I
that's shitty.
also think that was
No, you know what I think my hair started going bad was when I had it that long, and I would 2 reasons. Like when it was down to my shoulders, I would keep it in a ponytail all the time. I think that like ruin my hair.
I think it's the fact
I
that
had my
when
hair
you
in a
had long
ponytail.
hair, you took like 3 showers a day, and you probably always washed your hair.
Oh yeah, every time.
So bad for
and I
your
use
hair.
conditioner every time. And I have curly hair, so you have to brush it, and I would just like literally just like do like just I don't even know how to explain it. Like I would just like run through my hair.
Did you wash your hair every time you showered when you had long hair, or was it like every other day?
I probably would go at least 2 days.
Yeah, see, that's where I am.
But I'll be honest with my hair right now is getting long again.
But like now, I wash my hair pretty much every time I shower. Yeah.
Oh, I do it every time.
But also, it's because like my wife
Super
has.
bad for it.
So after the whole Head and Shoulders thing, my wife was like, you're gonna use my shampoo, because she spends
I mean, it's typical.
outrageous amounts of money on shampoo.
Right.
And of course, but it's like she'll buy the big ones and then not like it after like using a quarter of it, and then buy some new fancy one, and then you're like, seriously, we just spent, however much money on that shampoo, and you're not going to use it anymore. So now I'm using one of her leftovers.
Oh yeah.
And it's changed a lot. But
I'm sure.
I guarantee you is that I didn't know that. I didn't know Head and Shoulders was just. I thought because it was like the 2-in-1. I was like,
Well,
perfect.
That's what my mom used, because she's a hairstylist, and she would always like. Because I remember in wrestling in high school, they would like, if you didn't supply your own shampoo, which was pretty rare because we were young and we didn't bring that kind of stuff to high school, they would give you the blue bottle of like Suave or whatever. It was like the cheapest stuff they could get. And my mom would like literally chew us out if we use that on our hair, because it's so bad for your hair. And so like that, like, yeah, that chemical stuff. I mean, but I'll be honest with you, the reason I grow out my hair anymore is because I'm terrified I'm going to wake up one year and it's just, I can't do that anymore. So I'm growing it while I can, if that makes sense.
Embrace it. Hey, my dad lost
See,
his hair when he was like 16, 17.
So did my dad. But
Yeah.
I don't have a good scalp, bro. I've had like 4 different sets of stitches on there, and I'm gonna have an ugly ass bald head. So I'm trying to just keep some sort of.
You just wear a hat all the time. I know a guy. The guy I guarantee you will listen to this podcast. He knows who he is. He is bald for sure. Like he's got the like backside where it's long. He just wears a hat all day.
Well, I could run the. I could. No, I don't want to talk about that. But
also, like they say, like the hats cause you to get thin up top.
Can I talk about another like guilty pleasure that I have that you're gonna make fun of me for? I like TLC shows in my free time. Ramsey already knows this. Like 1,000-Pound Sisters, the Amish one, stuff like that. But I watched the 90 Day Fiance too, right? I know Sean's instantly
What
judging me
is
right now.
that?
It's like where people meet online.
And they get married in 90 days?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So there was this dude that like would not take his hat off, right?
I was
like
applied 6 times for that shit.
Like they were banging on, like people were doing what adults do, and the dude was wearing a hat because he was so self-conscious about his bald head. I don't think I would ever be that, but I don't want to be known as the hat guy, because then you walk in the room, they're like, well, you're wearing a hat because you're bald. I'm not bald though, so why are we talking about me being bald? I just have a little bit.
Among all tangents that have happened on the Bull Mountain Brothers podcast, this is by far the dumbest fucking tangent we've ever been.
Yeah, but at the same time, do you think people will judge you if you're having a bald head?
Again, Sean, I'm trying to be presentable in my late 20s, and I think I have a good look going on, and I don't want to be bald yet.
Okay, what if
He's trying to do what you did and look good in high school and then get married and then just look like shit after that.
What?
Come on, you can laugh at that one. That
I like
was
how
a good
Ramsey
one.
tries to hardcore pivot out of conversations. Like this is a good conversation, and he's trying to pivot out of it right now.
I'm not. I'm just trying to
The
be
only
funny.
guy in the room with flush flowing hair, and he wants to pivot out of the
Whoa,
conversation.
whoa. Lush flowing hair.
all the way around. We're not
You
just
have-
talking about the 3/4 from the front to the
Listen,
back.
you have good hair, Sean. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's decent. It's
Yeah, see, that's
there's
not.
literally, I just saw a ball. Like it's
That's
you
not.
can-
A,
you're not
the
doing
lighting's
yourself.
not doing a.
You're not
service to you
justifying
right now.
yourself.
What's going on with this?
I mean,
Mine's pretty greasy because it's been in the hat all
It's
day.
always greasy. Don't lie to me.
all right, we're not showing people our hair now, guys.
Let's take a poll.
Let's not pan over here, please.
No.
Come on, take your hat off.
I'm not taking my hat off.
You want to be known as a hat guy? Let's see.
I mean, it's not that bad.
Looks better than Sean's.
Hold on.
No, I get it. I know I get
It's
it because
okay.
Ramsey is keeping the tangent with the long hair because he posted a Tinder profile picture about 4 years ago, and that's what he uses. I get it. It's okay.
What's that? I'm like the same weight. 4 years
No,
ago.
I'm talking about your face, your
Oh.
head,
What about
your hair. Follow the
I
Follow
like
the flow
I
of
like
my-
the idea
my
of growing your hair long.
shit
because
talking, would you?
There'll be a time in your life we won't be able to do it.
What do you mean?
There will be a time in your life where you won't be able to grow your hair out.
I don't know about that.
Are you just saying you don't?
on my
you don't do it?
fucking deathbed? Maybe.
You ever heard the thing? It's like your mom's dad is like if he's bald, you'll be bald. That's the whole thing, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I just
My mom's dad died when she was 6. So.
with a full head of hair. So
Oh really?
well,
I don't even know.
kind of like Roger.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Is like.
All right,
that's where
here's
they
a
get the
poll for you.
logic.
Would you rather start balding on the front of your head or the back of your head?
I'm gonna say
Neither.
back.
I would say
If I had to choose, it would be back.
like a bad hairline or balding and like in the back of your head.
Well, like I'm starting to think like if I hate talking about this all the way. If I was to say I was starting to go thin, it would be like if the right light kind of see through the peak of my head. The right light looks pretty okay most of the time. But I wouldn't like if like like it started to bald right here. I would really be self-conscious about that because I can't see that. So like if I'm not wearing
exactly, you can't see it. Why does it matter?
I don't know, it just would bug me.
Once again, we circle back to the fact that you wear a hat 12 hours of the day.
That's not true. I don't wear a hat at work.
Yes, you do.
Not all the time. I wear headphones.
So you're wearing
I wear
headphones with a hat right
I wear
now.
ear protection.
Also false because your speaker is
Oh, it's protect my ear.
anyway. Carrying on.
This was
Sean, pivot us out of this conversation.
We're now 30 minutes into a podcast.
Talking about
And
it
then we've
right now.
talked about the high horse and our hair.
Did you have something for us, Sean? That
I
you wanted
did.
to
I
talk
did.
about?
I don't know if we do want to hear from our great friends at F&H before I bring this in, or do you want to just go right into
That's
it?
fine. Let's go ahead and let's go to break. And when we get back, I think we're getting break a little early. We usually do about 45 minutes to an hour. But Sean said that this conversation that he wants to bring up could really run for a while. So
Good.
I don't want to interrupt your conversation at all. So let's hear from our good friends at F&H, and we'll be right back.
I just wanted to take a moment of your time to talk to you about one of our sponsors, F&H Contracting and Fence, located in Billings, Montana. If you're looking to spruce up your yard or want a little more privacy for them summer backyard barbecues, or maybe you just need part of your fence repaired, contact our friends at F&H Contracting and Fence by texting 406-661-7484. From front yards to farmyards and even chain link to vinyl, they've got you covered. Now back to the action.
Thank you for those great words from our awesome sponsors at F&H Fence. Now, so it's kind of a segment. I just know that this kind of conversation is going to spark something that, this could go on tangents on tangents on tangents. I actually heard this today. I'm going to give credit to Alan Kuhnfair and Casey Smith for this question that they brought up to me today while we were eating lunch that I just really think it's something that I feel like a lot of hunters in Montana haven't thought about. And it was kind of tough for me to kind of gel with them because in their sense where they hunt, the mule deer population has dropped. And I feel like we have felt that, especially like with Narnia, the mule deer population has dropped a lot. I don't know necessarily with two leggings if you guys have seen similar population drop, but essentially they kind of came up with the idea, or I guess this would be more so Casey came up with this idea that what would you guys think about if the state of Montana, instead of doing specialty A-tag drawings for horned mule or horned deer in Montana, whether it be a whitetail or a mule deer. If they were to just do essentially a general tag for an A tag, but do it where you can only shoot something that's over a 3-point buck, how would you guys take that?
Now, if you can get one of you guys can do the research for me real quick. I believe there's some states that are oh Jesus. Sorry, boys.
That's even worse.
I don't know what to do. There we go. All right.
Other way.
I believe there's some states that do this with whitetail already, or there's some species out there that you have to. We might have to look into this, but I think there is something in regulation out there where there has to, like, I know there's stuff obviously for elk where you have to shoot. There's some regions where they're brow tine only, or you can't shoot spikes, or you can shoot spikes, stuff like that. There is stuff implemented out there. Guys, this is gonna drive me crazy. What is going on here?
Other way.
All right. That is already being implemented. I think that I just don't know how it would bring in so many things. Like, because let's talk about elk real quick. To be classified as a spike in Montana, it either has to have, of course, a single main beam, or it can have a branch, but that branch has to be less than, is it 4 inches? 4 inches,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which brings a lot of question, because I mean, what happens if you're 4 inches and 4.001 inches, you know what I mean, or 4.1 inches? And so I think that would raise the same question: is what classifies a 3-point? How much problems are we going to have with 3-point shooting? But I think along the realms of the conversation, something needs to be had about what.
What was that? What just happened?
I was trying not to burp into the mic.
Well, and their other kind of idea of it too is like the fact that the only reason, like, outside of being a adult hunter, the only sense that you would have to shoot something under 3-point is for a youth hunter scenario. Which, it's like, at that point, I mean,
that's opinionated. That's your view.
Right.
That's how you were
So-
raised.
no, but I'm saying, like, instead of doing, like, if that was the actual state's law in that sense, where an adult hunter cannot shoot any deer under 3 points unless you're a youth hunter, is where you can go out and shoot the deer under that. And that's obviously herd management stuff and population, but with the numbers that we've been seeing in the recent years, I feel like herd management should be taken account for the entire state. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I think in a state that had a less population of deer, it could probably work. But you got to figure we have a lot of area.
Okay, let me ask you this. I don't know.
Hold on. My thought's not done. We have a lot of area, and there's a lot of people out there that won't shoot a doe. So if you take out all of those 2 points and 2x3s and stuff, they're going to get overpopulated.
Where are you basing your knowledge off of by saying there's a lot of people out there that won't shoot a doe? Because I feel like the majority of the population that hunts in Montana are just deer hunters, and they go out that one weekend a month and they shoot the first thing that comes across their.
Which is true in a lot of aspects, but I also have seen a lot of. I think I've been very fortunate in being able to not only hunt myself, but we've been a lot of places, and I've seen a lot of things in the back of trucks I've come across, and 9 times out of 10 it's gonna have horns. I feel like in my now, have I seen guys shoot doe? I mean, that year that you helped that youth hunter get his buck, you know, they were gonna go home with does only. I think that I think if you looked at the statistics on what's gone through game checks, a higher percentage of horned animals are going through the game checks than not horned. Way different for elk though, because a lot of people are, you know, it's an animal that's much harder to acquire, and let alone acquire land to be able to, you know, there's a lot of private land out there that holds elk on it. So like shooting a cow is a hard feat in its own. So, but I would say as far as deer and even antelope go, pertaining to Montana, our Western hunting ideologies here. The more frequent animal killed is probably going to have horns.
So back to what Ramsey was saying about population. He's seen this, so I'm going to ask you. I'm not going to make it a question. Basically, if you had to guess what state has the most, I am making it a question. What state has the most deer population?
I think we've talked about this before. It's probably like Kansas or Midwest or something like that. Somewhere Midwest.
So as far as my research has gone here, Colorado has a massive. I mean, that is. They're saying that it's above 600,000.
And they're
in the
very
past
well could
40
be.
years, and then it's typically like 400,000. But I did look up Montana. If you had to guess, how many do you think you're in Montana for total deer, whitetail and mule deer?
I'm just trying. Let me try to think of some quotas real quick on regions.
Based off that Colorado
250,000.
number, actually,
It's about 507, wasn't it?
it was 507,000 total, and if
500,000.
so, which is in a sense, it's not that ridiculous to say, but it's saying here that about 300,000 of that is mule deer, which I could see.
I could believe that.
And then I was looking into like Wyoming with that whole Wyoming's a big state about like mule deer migration stuff that we've talked about.
Wasn't Colorado at the bottom of the mule deer migration?
They're saying that there's only about
The Rocky Mountain front?
30 to 40,000 deer in Wyoming. That's substantially lower.
I don't know. I don't really know enough about Wyoming to comment on that, I guess. I mean, I
Well-
thought I've seen a lot of... I think there's a lot.
Literally a deer population by state right there.
Is there? Let's see what the most is.
I would guess it's
This is
probably
from
Alaska.
animals.com.
Where'd you say, Ramsey?
Alaska, just land area.
They only have 2 species of deer, and it's only in the southern part of Alaska.
Texas.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Texas is the number here that reads. It's a little chart here. You can
You can probably scroll down and find the actual number.
yeah. You can also put that on the. This is the chart here for the nation. It's saying that these are the numbers.
So the first article you
I
read
was-
about Colorado is incorrect.
No,
No, I never said Colorado was the biggest. I was just saying that. I guess I didn't have the answer to the question I asked you, but Colorado just surprised me by the number amount. But
Oh,
I mean, if you look at right here, that's saying 5.5 million in the the jet red. That seems
it's also the second largest state.
yeah. I guess.
so my Kansas guess wasn't that
but
far
if
out.
you look at Alaska, that's Alaska. That's saying
Yeah.
that number right there.
And look at Idaho compared to us.
In Idaho, I would say is
so
Seven-
Nevada
seven-
has no
50.
deer in it? That's wild.
15 to 90,000.
You think it's all because it's like almost all mule deer in Nevada?
I guess I don't really know the entirety of hunting in Nevada. I
It
don't.
seems weird to me that Louisiana is that low when the
Wasn't most of it in a swamp?
5 states around it have.
Yeah, but isn't
Millions.
Louisiana mostly a swamp?
You would think, though, looking at this, that Montana would be a little bit more.
I think it's Idaho makes
this
sense though
stage.
because they're really
Let's see.
known for their mule deer population. I think that maybe we need to get more educated on this before we comment.
This is, I mean, obviously, deer populations in the southern states, where guys are out doing.
Well, there's a lot of whitetail.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a
that's
lot
just
of
plain and
whitetail.
simple
Yeah.
what it is.
But I mean, like this.
Wow, Arizona surprises me.
427,000. Connecticut, Delaware.
Florida. That's crazy.
I would never, ever, if you asked me, I would never guess that many in Florida. Ever. Georgia, quite a few. We know some guys from Georgia. That really doesn't surprise me.
But it's axis deer.
Yeah, there's
That's
such a
true.
high population
Yeah,
of access deer.
Right. Idaho, Illinois,
Illinois, that's a big number.
Indiana, Kansas.
You're just trying to get to Montana.
I'm just, let's see. Well, I have it pulled up, but
What if they're like, there's a population of 3 red stag in Montana,
Yep, 507,000.
507,000.
300,000 mule
See,
deer.
and now if you look at that though,
What is that?
it says 300,000. Oh, I guess it says about 300.
The 2 species live in different parts of the state. That's false.
That is very
They
false.
live on top of each other.
Nebraska? I don't know. It's
Nevada only has mule deer.
So let's get back to the subject at hand, the question here.
yeah. So what would you guys? I mean, like, what would your opinions be on that?
I just think that the FWP probably doesn't want to. They probably have so much struggle with already trying to, like I said, the elk stuff is so much to struggle already. The deer would be, and I wouldn't do a 3-point if it was. Excuse me. If it was me making these laws, I would say the law that I would make to justify this conversation would be you have to shoot a fully formed 4x4 mule deer, right?
But with what you're saying right there, wouldn't you say that the fact that most deer hunters don't have that knowledge? Like, if you think
you
about
can
it,
count 4 on each side though.
right? But I'm saying,
I think it's way too difficult because even think like Ramsey
more-
shot a 3-point one time that was like 26 inches wide, and it was barely a 3-point. Like it had nubs, it had crab claws at the front. Like it was almost a 2-point.
They were in the
And-
back actually.
and that was-
oddly enough.
That was probably a 4 or 5 year old deer. That was a mature deer. So it's like this is where you run into the mule deer. Is mule deer are so dependent on nutrition, what happens in the wintertime, water, all of that stuff to determine horn growth. And so if you were and I get where this conversation comes from, because there's a lot of what they call down in the Midwest button bucks, 2-point fork horns we call them here, small 1 to 3 year old deer killed here a lot. We've had this conversation so many times about this 1 to 3 year old mule deer that's been killed, 1 to 3 year old whitetail that's been killed. But mule deer specifically, and I just don't know if my whitetail information is not as, and if there's a lot of guys from a lot of whitetail hunters out there that want to speak up for this. But as far as mule deer go, my experience with mule deer is I was guiding this year, right? I had these guys, there was this one ridge that I kept going to. I loved it. We'd park at a certain spot, we'd hike in, and 9 times out of 10, there was this one, it was like a saddle in this little mountain range that would hold deer almost every night. And I come out there one night and I pull up the binoculars. I'm looking, I see a couple does. I'm looking in the trees, and all of a sudden I see this deer. And I'm telling you, I was like, finally found it. Like, I was like, we found a mature one. Like, it looks like it's probably got like a 27-inch frame, right? You know, probably 22, 24 tall. It looks awesome. Turns sideways, he's a 1x2. And tell me that deer right there is not potentially a 5-6 year old deer. What do you do in that? That deer needs to be culled out of that herd. That's a deer that's what they call, if you're referring to as like a management buck, that's a bad genetic, could have potential for, something either happened to him when he was growing horns. He either got an injury or just plain bad genetics. That's a deer yourself, like in that instance, that you would want to cull from that herd. What do you do when you can only shoot a 3-point or better?
So look at it this way. When you I would say our herd management mentality, which this is obviously Range's opinion, we're not shooting as far as Ramsey and I's herd management mentality that we do within a property that we religiously hunted for the last 3 years. Our herd management is basically shooting the mature bucks that are, they score good. They're a large horned animal because they are at the peak of their maturity, right? What is the harm in leaving that deer that you just spoke about live out there the rest of his life? What's the harm in that for herd management? That's the only thing that I have never, there's no reason that that you shouldn't leave that.
Well, the problem is we're tiptoeing the line of so many like questionable gray area conversations within hunting, where you want to talk about whether it's do you shoot for, I mean, people shoot for horns, or do you shoot for whatever? And that's where it's hard to explain our mentality on things, where yes, you're trying to shoot that deer that has lived its life, that is mature, and it ends up being, because at the end of the day, and this is personal choice, this isn't what you guys are doing, whatever. At the end of the day, I'm not particularly going out there to shoot a 180-inch mule deer every time, right? I'm going out there and I want to shoot a deer that has had probably 4 to 5 breeding seasons, right? Has lived its life, and again, it's getting that genetics out there. It's helping the population. If you shoot a 1-2-year-old buck, it's probably not going to breed in that first year anyways. So you got one breeding year out of a buck. And again, like, a lot of people aren't going to have that choice though, right? We're very lucky because we have some private spots where you guys can make that kind of adjustment, make that kind of strategy. But what you have to understand, Sean, is if you're on a public land, or like, even talk about like the spot that we used to hunt when we were kids, it was private, but it was like really shoddy private. Like, it was mismanaged, and a lot of the deer that were on there they would not hit that potential, right? There wasn't the nutrients. I mean, it was straight dry hay, right? It was a wheat property, and sagebrush, rolling hills, low water, right? So all the horns, they came out spindly, they came out, they didn't really get big ever. And so in that herd, right, your most mature buck in there could have been a 3-year-old pushing all the does, rutting and stuff like that. Whereas you go to your property, and all the deer that are pushing does and stuff during the rut in your property are these ones like Ramsey has harvested, 160, 170, 180-inch mule deer that are running the country. And a lot of these places, it's 110-inch bucks pushing does. And if that's all you got, that's all you got.
So where I'm going to disagree with you on this is herd management is, as far as Ramsey and I go with our a likeness on hunting, it's per herd. You know what I mean? It's not like, yes, we have the opportunity to hunt a private area that can produce very large mule deer for sure. But if you're somebody that goes out to a public land spot consistently every year, your herd management is not based off of the Boone and Crockett's. It's based off of what your herd produces. So in that sense, if the biggest mule deer that you've seen for the last 2 years hasn't gotten bigger than a 3-point, that's the mature buck that you're going to take. Whether or not your herd can't grow something that's that big, because it happens plenty of times. Maybe they're out there, you know what I mean? But also the other thing you got to look at with what you were saying about the mature 4 or 5-year-old buck, it could be 140-inch max. It potentially could never reach a trophy to like a Boone and Crockett scale or something like that. But what I'm getting at is that 1x2 or 1x3 that you see in a herd that you can tell is an older deer. Do you think he's bred even one time? Do you think he's bred at all? That would be the only thing that I look at going into that, is like something like he is going to get beat by the studs of your herd in a sense, whether it be a 120-inch deer or a 180-inch deer.
Yeah, and I agree with that in a lot of aspects, but at the same time too, there's a lot of these goofy bucks and goofy bulls and stuff like that they almost have an advantage by having one giant spike or 1 or 2 horns, and they're actually winning out in some of those mature buck contests. Now, I get what you're saying, but I think that we're when they talk about hunting privilege, we're privileged to even be having this conversation, because a lot of the people out there don't have the ability. And again, if they put in the time and the effort, they probably could, even on public land, have the same conversation opportunity as we do. But we've talked about this before. We understand that there's people out there that only they don't get to live this lifestyle that we get to live, where we get to really put in the science, the knowledge, the work, all that stuff into this stuff. A lot of these people are just leaving their house on a Friday night or Saturday morning and hunting Saturday. You know what I mean? And so they don't have the luxury of understanding herd management. You know what I mean?
And I mean, even to throw another wrench at it, I've seen 2-year-old deer that were this wide, this tall, and they were a 4x4.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you another question. You have 3 deer that are trophies in a lot of people's eyes. You have 3 of them, right? And they're all different ages, right? Let's tell the audience here about what size those deer are and which one's the oldest.
What, my deer?
Yes, you have 3 deer. About what size did they score, and of those 3, which one?
You're not counting that one as
No.
you're talking the other one.
The 2 in the house.
That was a deadhead. That wasn't shot. That was
I
deadhead.
keep.
So this is
mixing it.
just
So he's 3 taxiderm.
I have my idea of what the 3D you're talking about are.
There he has 3 of them. Well, one's at the taxidermist.
Right.
One's It's his 3 bucks that are on his wall, essentially.
So I have one deer. He's about 140 inches. Does he have eye guards?
Yes.
Yes, they're.
He's a 4x4,
Yeah, that's what I was
Perfect.
getting at. 4x4 with little eye. They're small eye guards.
and he's got a start. He has a half kicker on the one back.
Yeah, but it's not long enough to count.
But at that point, that
It's
deer
more
at
like
that
a
point,
bump on a pickle.
that was a mountain mule deer, and
It is though.
so yeah, keep going with that. It was a 140-inch mule deer, 145
And then-
somewhere in there.
I have the one that I shot in 2019, which is roughly between 165 and 175 inches.
Mm-hmm.
25.
What? And then I have the deer that I shot this year, which my guess is I'm going to say over 165, but he's just a solid 4. He's just a straight up
Super wide 4-point.
super wide 4x4, and he's not super heavy.
So essentially, you have 2 deer that are easily 165 plus, right? Trophy mule deer. A lot of people will never get that opportunity in their life. You've got 2 of them, and then you've got 140-inch. Those are your trophies, right? Of those 3 deer, which one is the oldest?
The smallest one is the oldest. Smallest one, 6.5 years old.
Really?
Yeah, because we actually had the opportunity when he shot his that 4-point. We were coming back from the mountains, ran
Yeah.
into a game check,
And they aged it.
and he was 6.5 years old. Yes, and then of course
The one I shot this year was 3.5, and the one from 2019 was 4.5.
That's what I figured. So I actually would have had the other one, the 140, as the youngest, only for the sense that a couple of.
If you say anything on his cape, that's not original.
No,
I'll tell that story here in a second. With you.
I've read. I mean, you guys know me. I'm a big mule deer guy. I've read so many forums and stuff about biologists talking about mule deer, especially with the massive Wyoming migration that happens every year that you guys always give me shit for. But one thing that I've noted from it is that eye guards are a big tell in some instance, and regression is on eye guards on like a typical deer. You can't really you can't tell in a sense. Like there's regression within horn, right? So obviously eye guards will shrink as they regress, but a lot of the times the eye guards can somewhat stay the same for the entire life of the deer, whether it's a 120-inch for its entire lifespan or a 200-inch. So that was why the only reason I would say that 140-inch deer was the youngest one is because eye guards can, it's hard to say.
And I can't for I see it every day at my house. I don't know how I can't recall exactly if the eye guard look on it or not.
I'm gonna pull it up on my phone.
But
just email it to me.
I think you got a disservice in the conversation because you were probably unaware that that thing had the most beautiful cape I've ever seen on a mule deer.
No, I knew this.
And Ramsey wasn't going to mount it. Ended up mounting it with a cape from someone else's deer.
They're pretty small, honestly.
So how old was this buck?
6.5 years old.
Really?
And for some reason, I feel like it was over 7 years old.
No, it was 6.5.
Okay.
That's what you're talking about right there.
Yeah, it's not quite. It's a little bump on a pickle.
But so this is what
I
I'm
could
saying. You're
tell-
running into so many things here. Like the oldest deer that he has is the smallest one he has, and that one could have been. And I think that's where people struggle on mule deer. Now, while I say is, Sean, I guide these things. I understand horn growth and horn aspects and stuff. I can tell you the difference between 9 times out of 10 between a young immature buck and a mature one. But a lot of people that don't have that opportunity could never tell you.
Right. I totally agree with that, but in the fact that, like, looking at horn size, I'm not saying, like, I don't necessarily totally agree with the idea of, like, the 3-point thing. I'm just saying,
I get what you're saying. You had a basis for
like,
conversation.
if you were looking at it as, like, mature bucks, I know there's guys out there that are just weekend warriors type that go out and maybe, 1 or 2 weekends. I mean,
you use that term so loosely.
I do in a sense, yes, but
There's nothing wrong with you. He's not saying, anyone that's listening, he's not complaining. He's not saying there's nothing wrong. He's just saying that he understands that there are people out there that don't put in the time to understand.
I'm not.
You're not
saying
saying
is,
that negatively.
No, I'm not saying that negatively. What I'm saying is the guys that, are so busy 5 days a week that they can't do what we do in a sense. And some of them aren't those guys that are. There's plenty of guys out there that are so busy, working 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week, that just don't have the time to, focus and really chase the passion of it in a sense.
And a lot of ours is easier because of the location. Some guys hunt 2, 3, 4 hours away.
Right. But the point I'm getting at here is, if you're a hunter in Montana, you went through the hunter's education, you understand from the teachings that they gave you, whether you did it when you were 12 or you were 20, that what the difference between a mature animal and a non-mature animal is. In a lot of ways, it's kind of common sense built. Basically, what I would say would be a good thing to do with that mentality, if the state of Montana was to adopt that kind of attitude towards an A-tag for deer, would be, you can only shoot a mature animal. Yes, it's going to be very vague, for sure. But in that sense, you're basically looking at something that any one of these, I would say, outside of maybe this one, but the 2 of those and this whitetail behind me, I would say are mature deer for a common sense in that case. That's what I'm getting at. It's not like you're not going to go out there and, yes, you see a 2-point run by you. Don't shoot that. Shoot, you know what I mean? That would be the entire.
As far as governing something, though,
Yeah.
they would never do something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the pushback you would get, especially from like local hunters and stuff, would be like, here's another way that the government could tell me, I thought I was in the right, I'm now in the wrong. Because like, what is just? Let me just throw down exactly what I would see happening if anything like this ever did happen. First of all, there needs to be a population analysis and a real world analysis on what is really out there. Are we really in a decline, or is it a specific regional decline? Right? Because maybe in Western Montana, I honestly don't think that the 4 of us hunt enough in far Western Montana to make any justification
I
or
think any of us hunt. I mean, it's been. Have you ever
or like
hunted
Missoula
Western Montana while holding a tag?
from Missoula down to Dillon?
Had to have been just like your first.
Well, and I
couple
hear
of
a lot.
years.
I hear a lot from guys I knew and stuff. But the other thing I look at too is the one thing you got to note, and I know this is all opinionated. I get it, but the fact shooting a 180-inch mule deer has never affected the population of a mule deer herd.
Oh no, I completely agree. Let me.
I'm not like, what I'm saying is I'm like, all I'm saying is shooting that trophy size buck has never affected the herd, but shooting that 2x2 can.
No, and I don't disagree with that at all. I think that as someone that knows,
we even had a conversation with Matt about why they have the rules at two leggings that they do is because if you shoot that 2-year-old buck, you just lost 5 years of breeding, which could be upwards of 100 deer, 100 possible deer.
The one thing I wanted
more.
to ask you, that big question is,
okay, hold your question. Let me finish what I was trying to get to here. So I think there needs to be a real world analysis on exactly what's going on, because I don't think you can exactly say like Montana as a whole is in a deer decline. We need to implement the exact same rules, the exact same regions, because it could really upset the balance, and it could really upset a lot of local hunters, right? I mean, obviously, is there always going to be things that upset local hunters? Yes. But so you then find your population analysis, you figure it out. Is that what they're trying to do consistently? I'm sure, yes. But the only thing I think you could do to save this and to save the head, I would assume that the mature deer outlook, the points on the horns outlook, stuff like that would be a nightmare scenario for a fish and game warden to try and implement that rule.
for sure it would.
The only thing I think that you could do is implement more regional ATAG drawings. And that would piss a lot. I'm just saying, I'm already probably pissing a lot of people off by even suggesting that. But I think the only thing you could do is start turning more districts into draw only for buck tags.
But the only problem with that is you got to look at it like I just said. Shooting 150 plus inch mule deer doesn't save the population.
And I understand that, but you're never going to get a person, you're never going to get 60% of the population of Montana to say, Sean Morris is not going to be able to come out and say, you cannot shoot 1 and 2 point deer. Sean Morris went to government to try and implement a law that says you cannot shoot 1 and 2 point deer. The government, no one will ever, will literally tell you that this is my country, this is my tag, this is what I'm going to do. There's nothing we could ever do. As much as, and I'm saying this from someone that wishes we could do something. I wish that we could do something to where we could start growing our herds. We could start implementing some sort of tactic, but it's just like any other crazy political situation that's going on in America. You could never implement something like that because there's too many people that are too opinionated and too, this is my land, this is my country, that they would shoot whatever they want. And if they couldn't do it, Sean, they would do it illegally.
Right. And the other thing you got to think about too, which is it's very true, that obviously this year we've talked about it on the podcast. People that follow any FWP news know that the deer turn-in rate was very low.
Oh, very low.
Very, very low as a state average. Now, look at it this way. Take hunting rights completely away for a year. Take it 10 years. Nobody can hunt or shoot a mule deer, right? You got
which they have done in some places,
right? And you got diseases.
That's DEFCON worst case scenario for everybody.
You got diseases like blue tongue, CWD, things like this that kill deer naturally, in a sense. Naturally, do you think the numbers would drop lower than if, in the sense where we've had hunters and things like that have lowered the numbers for this year? But if you take it in the natural sense, there's no way that the numbers would be this low with the natural sense and taking over the deer population. So clearly it's hunting in Montana has dropped the deer population. There's no way around it. It is very true. Now, I'm not out here preaching that people need to have way better herd management. All I'm saying, this was merely a question, is I wonder if people maybe think that the deer population could rise if something like that was in place. You know what I mean? Because like I said the entire night, shooting a 180-inch mule deer does not drop the population, but shooting the next generation, in a sense, can. You know what I mean?
No, I don't disagree whatsoever, but I also think that the most highly sought after, I mean, like the deer that's taking the most pain all year long is going to be that 160-inch plus mule deer. That's a deer that has to fight for their herd, to fight for their reproduction. That's a
Natural pain, right? You would say
exactly, because you know, and I didn't know this fact till I, you know, was an adult. You know, like probably I learned from Trapper Dave a while ago that, you know, predators are going after the mature deer. I never would have thought that in my life. I would have thought easy pickings. They're going after the 3 points, the 2 points, the whatever. But these mountain lions and stuff, they're going after the mature bucks. You know why? A, they're on their own most of the time. Easier to, you know, when there's less eyes, it's easier to sneak up on them. And another reason why a lot of bull elk die is because after the rut, they're worn out, right? So the most pain that any deer is going to go through is going to be when they're at that mature deer. So the really the only hard times they're having is against hunters, you know,
typically. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and I hope you guys think the same thing, that like the herd management isn't necessarily like shooting that big buck is not holding the herd back in any way, because that buck is either in its prime, it's the, you know, the high, it's the Midas of the herd, and it's bred for at least a year. Majority of the time, I would say more than a year. And when you go out and you go shoot the smaller bucks, you know, because I mean, it happens. I definitely have shot a, you know, not a stud, absolute stud, you know, Ramsey caliber mule deer before, but I mean, realistically, it does hurt the herd in a sense when you shoot those, because it's the next generation. It's going to be the next Midas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that more than anything, property. What is the term I'm trying to go here for? Pressure is harder than anything else.
Geographic
So
pressure.
you could have a property, right? And I'm just saying property. I'm not really focusing on specifically private land. Like this could be public land too. Let's just say it's a square, a 1 by 1 mile section of state land, right? That you could have one here at one location that gets 5 hunters a year, and you could have one here that gets 20 hunters a year, right? And so of those 20 hunters, if they're all shooting deer, right, the population there is going to take a hit, right? No matter what size that deer is. Where population on the other, if all 5 of them shot, their impact on that property is still going to be less than the other one. Whether they have morals for deer size or not, that geographical location is getting more pressure, therefore hurting that thing. So I almost wonder if, I don't know. Here's my real opinion on the whole thing here. I think that I personally am not educated enough on a couple things, right? And that being, what is the actual deer population? What kind of bucks are getting taken per district? And a couple other things. Now, I get where you're coming from, because I understand at the same point, I'm witnessing the death of young deer frequently, right? Just based off of what you drive by on the side of the road when you're going, you know, Montana has this cool thing where it's so wide open, right? There's so many opportunities for hunting. And that's the same thing with, I think, you know, Idaho, Wyoming, a lot of places with wide open country, is when you're transitioning between maybe spot to spot or just down the road, you're passing by hunters. You're coming across what they've harvested. I mean, I remember one time we were just coming home. We weren't even hunting, and we come across a hunter that had just harvested in a local town, and they showed us their kill, and it ended up being, again, you know, a very small deer. And so yes, we're able to see a lot of what goes on without knowing that kind of information. But I don't find myself educated enough to make any sort of determining factor to judge the entire state on what's going on. Do I think, from what I've seen personally, that we need to do something? Yes.
So my question I was going to ask you, though, like, you being in the profession of hunting with your your guiding through two leggings and things like that. In the recent years, have you seen a decline in the smaller deer?
So here, I'm going to give you a 5-year runoff right here. When I started hunting with on this property, my notice mule deer, let's just start in 2020, right? Maybe 2019. 2019 and 2020 were amazing years for mule deer. There was a lot of mature bucks. There was a lot of, like, not even that. There was a lot of does, 1, 2, 3-year-old bucks. Something happened between 2020 and 2021, and we've speculated this. I mean, we've had conversations about this forever. The drought, hot summers, natural things.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was something that happened between that year and 21. I think that the best person in my life that could give us the best outlook on this would be someone of Trapper Dave's stature. Someone that's been on a property for 45 years, 50 years, and could tell you, because I almost wonder if mule deer go through like anything else is. They go through historical seasonal changes, right? 5 years, they're at one point, they drop 5 years. They go up 5 years, they go down. But I will tell you, 21, 22, the deer populations were very scarce. And there was a lot of, I remember one year where it was, I wasn't finding any mature bucks at all. I was finding the 140 bucks, right? But then there was no 120, 110, 90. I mean, all these smaller bucks all down to, and we were seeing basically spikes, 2 points, immature 3 points, and then maybe like a good, like one of those deer, right? This year, I started to see, I think I counted 11 shooter bucks this year, which was the most I've seen since 2000 whatever. And then we saw probably, I would take a picture of, I just love animals so much. I would take a picture of every deer that we didn't shoot, right? Ended up being dozens and dozens, probably almost to 100 dinks, right? Whether it be 3, 4 points. I wasn't taking pictures of little guys. I was taking pictures of, that 3 and 4 point, that class of deer that I've been missing for a long time, right? But at that same rate, I was missing 2 points and spikes this year. So I don't know. I think that there's generational gaps that are missing, and the same thing happens with fish too. I remember the local river around here where it's controlled by flows, and one year they up the flows, wipe some egg beds, and you're running into that same thing where there's giant fish, baby fish. You're missing the in-between fish. And that's kind of what I saw with deer too. And I don't, again, I think I personally am too uneducated on a lot of this, but from personal experience, I think that Montana could benefit from some sort of major change in how we look at mule deer population.
No, I totally agree with that. And honestly, like asking you in the sense of the property that you professionally guide and hunt, that's kind of a tough thing to ask you, because that area produces such mature mule deer. The better question to ask somebody like that,
I would actually argue that your area produces more, but where I'm at specifically, because it's only hunted by an outfitter, you see more.
Right, but you're not getting the population.
And another thing to say, like I actually don't get to hunt deer there. I get to hunt elk there. So like me, I've never.
Right.
I don't know that ranch as a deer hunter. You know what I'm saying? I know it as a guide, which, I mean, they go hand in hand. It's the same thing. I mean, you're essentially trying to
you're hunting.
You're doing the same thing,
yeah.
but for someone else. But I don't have that. I don't have that same like passion. You know what I mean? Like I don't have that like elk. When I get to hunt elk here, and I do a lot of this too to help two leggings that it's in its own, whether it's camera work, scouting, what this and that. I know what elk are out there. I know when they're coming through. I've spent days and days in the field watching elk, sneaking up on elk, You know, I know these elk are before you can even pull your bow back or whatever. Deer is not the same for me because I can't hunt them, so like I don't have that same knowledge of what's going on. But I can tell you what I know from what I've seen, and that's about it. That's all I can do. Sean wants to go to the bathroom so bad, but he
No, I'm
good.
good.
I just tried to bring him into conversation.
No, so that would be my thing looking at it. Is the only reason, like, I'm not saying that Montana needs to change its laws or like people are wrong or right about what they're doing with herd management, but like what I'm getting at is when I reference Ramsey and I, for the listeners out there, is because Ramsey and I literally hunt the entire Montana hunting season together. We understand and logically make decisions together about everything that we do with a rifle or a bow. And so like when I say 3 years ago, shoulder season, I didn't hunt that property that we were on during rifle season. So I can't answer the mule deer population question for that year. But what I can tell you from what I saw that year is during shoulder season, when obviously you're not allowed to shoot mule deer or anything like that, when we were driving in, I saw studs. I mean, I'm talking stud mule deer on that. And I don't know if you saw those during rifle season or not, but that's one thing. But what I'm getting at is like, shouldn't your herd management mentality that you have personally, it's everybody's opinion on how they do this, but your herd management adapts to the herd, correct? I mean, in a sense it should. So like I was saying earlier about having a population of deer that you've hunted on this property for say 5 years. You've seen the biggest deer, whether it be on a trail camera or with your own eyes or through a spotting scope. You haven't seen a deer in 5 years that's over 150 inches. You understand in that fact that maybe, of course, you're missing some pass-throughs, but that's not the initial herd that you're doing, stats off of, in a sense. Your herd management adapts per herd. So in that case, that's a stud. That's a stud when you're out there. You want to shoot a mature mule deer. You want something that looks good on the wall. I mean, that's why shouldn't you be able to have that mentality as a hunter in Montana? In that case, that's a mature mule deer to shoot, right? So your adaptation of your herd management goes with the herd. It makes the most sense because the next year, that 140-inch deer that you passed up on because it looked young, blah blah blah, it could be a 160-inch deer the next year. You never know. So the fact that when you find a herd of deer on the place that you hunt the most, does that not make a lot of sense with your herd management, like where it adapts? I mean,
no, I totally get where you're coming from, but I think that I've hunted deer in so many different places in this state that every one of them has, and I don't know how you feel about this, Ramsey, but I feel like it's different every location you go to.
Oh yeah.
Like the place that Ramsey and I hunted when we were growing up, you were never going to see a giant deer. It was never going to happen. The most mature, and I get like there was a lot of other people that hunted there too. It was block management, so really it was public in all essence. I've just been different places where it was different things, and like we go from where we're at in eastern Montana and then go to the mountains. It seemed to me like the deer population in the mountains was always thriving. Where you guys go, like you'd run into 30, 40, 50 deer at a time out in the middle of the woods, and it seemed like they were doing well. Where you come back down here, and it was I don't know.
We saw a stud.
There was a significant switch in my mentality when I stopped. Well, I didn't completely stop hunting the property we hunted as kids, but switched from there to Narnia a couple years before you started hunting with me. because the first year we didn't shoot anything out there. Or Garrett shot a bull the first year. He had a bull tag for over there, and the second year was the year that I shot my deer, my first big deer. My mentality, there was a lot of deer that I saw from afar the first year I hunted out there, that having my mentality from the previous place, if I could have made the right stock on them, I would have shot them. Whereas after 2019, that completely switched to where I'm like, yeah, no, he's got another couple years before I'm going to even think about it.
Well, think about your adventure, like your livelihood as an outdoorsman, right? And especially someone like yourself that you were of all essence a first generation hunter, maybe a second generation. I mean, I love our dad to death, but he wasn't doing what we're doing now. So we're a second generation hunter. I guess I could give him the benefit, but like it was
He
so
hunted
different.
the way they hunted back then.
Like he hunted, like he didn't have to put in we were literally putting in book knowledge, real time experience, like the stuff that we're putting in to do what we do. To some people would just sound crazy, right? The amount of effort and time we do just to put food on the table, which I think, and I think it's come to show in over the years, like it's easier to me now to be in situations to harvest, right? And I think that's all because of what we've learned. So we go back to the knowledge thing here. I think that's what a lot of people like. I think that's what you're struggling with right now. At 25 years old, you are very mature in your knowledge and your understanding of what goes on, right? When we were kids, that was a giant deer, right? I didn't know any better. I didn't know what a mature deer was till I saw them on the ground. Now I know and understand there is a significant difference between deer A, deer B, in reference to like 100-inch deer, 130-inch deer, 160-inch deer. Like there is a giant jump once you go from like an actual, like I never would have understood that there is such a big difference between that deer there and then an actual trophy class mule deer, right? And so when I was a kid, like that, what I see on the wall right there was what a 2-point was, if that makes sense, right? So I think a lot of people do that too, where it's just until you've really witnessed the great, like the actual size and understanding of a mature, well nutritioned mule deer, you'll never know. And so,
well, that was what I was getting at, though, is like the things that I have been. I'm not going to say proposing, because I'm not saying that like that's where I'm at right now, because I'm not. I mean, obviously, we're just doing.
Well, a lot of us still aren't, anyways. I mean,
the reason I was saying is like in that sense, though, if that was law, what I basically proposed to you guys. Not going to say that because I just said I wasn't proposing, but what I was saying tonight about that question I asked you, youth hunting is totally out of the picture. Like that stuff, that is free game, everything. Like that was the whole thing.
Why do you think it's youth hunting? That was me up until I was 20 years old.
I don't know why. It's tough for me to like.
That's the thing you didn't have.
I didn't have that. I didn't hunt until I was 20. You know what I mean? So I had that, call it maturity or call it whatever you will. But that's kind of why I would say that. But at the same time, like to give the listeners an idea of our, like how we hunt together. Because I don't know if we've really, like we've told stories and things, but I don't know if we've really truly addressed it, is this year, the three of us went mule deer hunting after a busted antelope day. And we went to a property that you guys have hunted and harvested animals from.
Right. That one on the wall is over from there.
Yeah, and we did a 2.5 hour stalk where Riley was essentially our overwatch through a spotting scope, just watching us making, just addressing the situation, having his own opinion, and Ramsey and I are belly down on the ground for 2.5 hours making a stock, and ended
It's
up.
okay, Sean. You can say I was too lazy to go on the hike with you.
I wouldn't necessarily say that was the case, but
I think you just really didn't go because you didn't really need to.
yeah, it
No.
would have been too many. It would have been
Well,
it would
and
have been too much
there's-
surface area. But what I was
There's a
getting
point
at,
too where like I would rather just stay there and then witness everything go down, and then you guys come back and be like, "Hey, this is what happened from my point of view," and then I can say, "Hey, actually, while you were sitting there, I watched like 4 deer walk behind you."
right? But what I was getting at is we did this literally. It was 2 hours of Ramsey and I on our stomachs hunting a mule deer that we spotted from the truck that looked like a shooter mule deer in our eyes. We made the decision to go after it. 2 hours on our stomachs, crawling through cactus, rocks, everything, uncomfortable, and ended up getting in a shooting distance and a perfect shooting lane, being able to take the shot if we wanted to, and then ended up, no, let's reassess. Let's move on. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah.
that's kind of our ideals that we hold.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of our opinion comes from.
Let me try to draw a conclusion of this conversation. I think that this will always be opportunity based. I think that we're privileged in a way that we have more opportunity than most, but at the same time, we've put in the effort, and we still hunt public land. I mean, that's something that we definitely do 50% of our lives. I mean, we do enjoy. There's some really amazing opportunities to be had in wilderness, Montana, Forest Service areas that we still enjoy to do. And so we get different outlooks, but I will say that I think that this conversation is opportunity based, and a lot of people may look at this in a way where it's like, you guys seem a little privileged, and I want to be the devil's advocate and saying,
we are, but it's been earned.
Yeah, but it's opportunity based. So like, there's not a lot of people that get the opportunity to hunt 10 times a year, and there's people that only get to hunt once a year, and that one time they're going to go out and they're going to bring home some sort of harvestable animal to put in the freezer, and that's what's important to them. And that's what really is important to all hunters out there. And I think that that's what you have to just kind of draw it down to is this conversation is opportunity based, and if you have the opportunity to try and keep make some better judgments in what should be harvested, then you should do it. And if you can't do that, then that's your right as a Montana tag holder.
Right. And what I would like to say too is I'm not out there. I'm not voicing my opinion as the law. I'm just saying that I thought this was a great question to bring up. And it sparked a lot of conversation between the three of us, and explaining kind of how we have our opinion and how we hunt with herd management, I think is good, for people because I don't know if we've ever really we've always talked about herd management, but we've never voiced our opinion on it, and I think it's a good thing because there's probably plenty of people out there that are agreeing with it and some that aren't, and that's fine because it's all, it's Montana. Your right as a hunter is...
Well, and this applies to all Western region states and even some whitetail states that have some of the same issues. But yeah, that's the best thing about having a podcast is we can bring up conversation, and like there was a lot of points in there that I wasn't on one side or the other. I just like bringing up topics for conversation, and that's what Sean's saying too is really he was on not one side of the fence or more. It's a good conversation to be had. It can bring up topics and things that if we can get some people to give some feedback on this, that'd be wonderful to really hear from what everyone else is seeing out there in the mule deer world, and what you guys' opinions would be on what's going on. And
I really think that we could have an entire 4-hour long podcast on mule deer.
Oh yeah, you could probably draw a 1-day panel on just people in the nearest 5 miles that opinion on mule deer.
Seriously.
And it's whitetail too. It's deer hunting. It's hunting as a whole. I mean, elk could go in that. Antelope could go in that. There's just so much. There's just so much conversation to be had. And I think that it was a good one. I'm glad you brought it up. It was fun to talk about. It was, in the middle of March, not what we expected to talk about today, but I think that that's the best thing about Bull Mountain Brothers is we can talk about anything. And I think bringing up deer was a nice change of pace to get away from fishing and lack of doing things on the weekend.
And that's that time of season too, because I mean you're putting in for big A tags.
Yeah, this is tag season here. So you're putting in. There's strategies to that. There's maybe knowing about where the mule deer population is now could really help you get to a point where you make your decisions on what tags you're going to put in for. So
For sure.
With that being said, I think that we're going to wrap things up here. Again, thanks for everyone that showed up to the High Horse Saloon. We'll see everyone at the Squire tomorrow, and really nothing else going on. I mean, there's a million things going on.
Something big's coming.
Sean's shaking right now because there's so many things that he'd love to talk about. Some amazing things that are coming. I mean, literally, for some reason, April is going to be the sickest month of our entire company's existence. Like, the coolest stuff is coming out in April. So stay tuned for that. And for now, I think we'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
Catch you on the next one.
See ya.
Later. Thanks for listening to another episode of Bull Mountain Brothers.
Hey, if you're looking for more Bull Mountain Brothers, be sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at bull_mountain_brothers and Facebook and YouTube at Bull Mountain Brothers.
Also, don't forget to check out our B&B store at bullmountainbrothers.com, where you can find some super sweet deals on some seasonal merchandise and outdoor gear.